So research for a book like Shipwrecked in the Land of King Tobacco is never ending. A question came up, and I, in searching for that answer, wanted to share something fascinating with you. John Washington's second wife was named Anne Gerard, and she came from a very popular Maryland family, right? One of the founding families in Maryland. And when Anne Gerard died in her will, it stated she wanted to be buried back at the family plantation. Well, nowadays, they have a small museum there. It's in St. Clements Island, Maryland. Used to be over 100 acres. Now it's down to 40. So I called down there and I said, hey, you know, I'm doing research for this book I wrote. I have evidence from the 17th century that says Anne was brought back home to the family cemetery to be buried. Do you guys know where the cemetery is? What's the deal? You know? And she said, oh, good question. I'll call you back, right? So next day I get a phone call. Turns out now that the museum sits on 40 acres of what used to be 100 or more. Land designations at the time were 100, right? They know where the plantation, the Gerard plantation called Bedlam Neck, they know where that was. And they were able to find a newspaper source from the 19th century that said a new property owner came in and didn't like the way the gravestones strewn about looked, and took them all down and threw them in the river. I about had a heart attack, right? Because again, it's circumstantial, right? Until somebody gets in the water and tries to rub the face off those gravestones and see what the names of them are, we really have no way of knowing. But it just, you know, history is so fascinating, and humans do so many things without knowing that one day these things might be important. Now, that brings me to Pope's Creek, George Washington's birthplace. In the 1920s, when the colonial Danes came to that site, and they were trying quickly to build it up for the 200-year celebration, they brought in bulldozers to where they knew the Washington family cemetery had been. And they started digging, expecting to find a small handful of Washington, deceased. And they found over 30 bodies in there, most of which could not be identified. So they obviously, on the gravestones, identified the main ones. But I predict that if DNA testing were possible today, you would find some Broadhursts in there, you'd find some Popes in there, you'd probably find a few Gerards in there, you'd find some young children who died near birth. So anyway, there are some of these things lost to history that can't be answered, and we have to rely on just what the primary sources say. We know that John carried out the wishes of Anne's will. He was the executor. We know that Anne's sister, Frances, helped execute these wishes. We do know, we have plenty of evidence that suggests that the Washingtons were literally back and forth across the Potomac to the Gerard property all the time over the years. I mean, it was only several miles across river, right? To cross it directly from where Pope's Creek was 6 miles. To go a little further downriver and then up into the inlet where St. Mary's City was, you're looking more at about maybe 20-some nautical miles. But, this book, I could spend the rest of my life researching it and continuing to verify and add details to the narrative of the story. You can buy Shipwrecked in the Land of King Tobacco right now. There's a first edition out available on Amazon. Got a lot of irons in the fire and deals in the works, and I have a team of people doing an additional edit right now for spelling, grammar, things like that. I know some of the sites interested are doing some historical vetting, so you can buy the first edition. By the time I finish this next phase, the second edition will be uploaded and will contain all the grammatical corrections and whatnot. And they're not many. It's just, you see a misspelled word every once in a while here or there. So anyway, Amazon.com/author/nicholasdgarrett. And you can get it for Amazon for your Kindle, your phone, or paperback. I recommend paperback. I don't recommend Kindle for this book. And the reason why is because the story itself is about 320 pages. The rest of the book is bibliography. There's 150 some pages of bibliography in the book, and as you know, with a Kindle, it's hard to jump back and forth from beginning to end. And if you read the 3rd paragraph of the 4th chapter and you see something interesting and you want to say, oh, where did this source come from, you've got to flip through thousands of scrolls to get down to that. So really the paperback is the book you want for this version. Enjoy it, and I will keep you updated on Shipwrecked. I have promised 4 times that I'm going to get the audiobook form up for Chapter 4 on Patreon. I am definitely doing that this weekend, so you will see that up by end of day Sunday. Look forward to talking to you all on the next one. Thank you. Bye.